Welcome to Talking Muppets, the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppetational podcast in the world. I am Dando.
And I am Jayden.
If you listen to our Welcome to Talking Muppets podcast, you'll be well aware that he is the Muppets expert, I am the Muppets fan. But we're here today to give our thoughts on what's probably the most exciting show I've watched in many years. I can't remember being this excited for something for quite some time, to the point where I was almost emotional. Were you emotional? I was emotional when I hit that play button.
I absolutely was too. And that's coming fresh off the heels of new Stranger Things, of a number of new different shows and shows that have just wrapped up recently. I felt like I needed to watch this again within the same 24-hour span, and I did, and will most likely watch it again. It's that good. It's that fresh. It's that consistent with the humor and with the setup of the original show, while adding a number of different new things that kept me engaged and that I'd certainly like to see more of if this is to be picked up. And it seems like it has legs to it. Most of the Muppets don't, but this does. It's got a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics are expressing universal acclaim towards it, and I think that's a great sign for the future of the Muppets.
When you think of all the shows that do get picked up in 2025, 2026 in modern times, it would be impossible not to pick the Muppet Show up after watching this, because it's revived the Muppets. Because let's be honest, since Disney's owned the Muppets, they haven't really done all that well with them. I enjoy the 2011 movie, and I didn't really enjoy Muppets Most Wanted when I first watched it, but since I've had kids, my kids love the movie, and I've since grown to love it as well. But besides that, they had the Muppets TV show, which was more like The Office and things. It just sort of feels like Disney weren't quite sure what to do with this license. How do we modernize the Muppets? Well, you know what the key is? Don't have to modernize them. Just bring us the Muppets the way they always were. And that's what they've done here. And I was nervous going into this because I heard that Rogan and Goldberg were attached to it. And, you know, these guys know what they're doing. But I didn't mind their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot that they did with the movie a couple of years ago, and they had the TV show and whatnot. Right. But it felt very much like them trying to put their own spin on the franchise, and it just wasn't my franchise. And I sort of sat back and went, you know what, look, it's not my show anymore. Let the kids of today enjoy it. But my son, even he didn't really, he watched it and he enjoyed it, but he's forgotten about it. It became forgotten quite fast. I feel like this Muppet Show revival, they didn't try and put their spin on it. They just tried to pay tribute to the original Muppets. And in more ways than one, I couldn't believe how many Easter eggs there were existent in this. And I'm not going to lie, I teared up at certain points throughout this. I thought they just did an incredible job.
Oh, absolutely. Marvelous work all around for the set designers, the directors, the fantastic team of writers, the well of puppeteers that they've plucked from. And it's amazing what they've been able to do with this massive collaboration. I think that this has staying power. I think that this is going to be one of those big sort of TV event kind of things. And I think that when and if it does get picked up, people are going to be tuning in, eagerly awaiting who the next celebrity guest is going to be. And that just opens up a realm of possibilities for where they can go. 1 week they may do, say, a Kevin Hart show, or whoever else, whoever is willing to do it. And I know a lot of people want to do it. A John Cena episode.
Who wouldn't want to be on this show, realistically?
Exactly. It's a rite of passage for your career to work with the Muppets. And because this is being received so well, I think people are going to want to do this. And they want to do it because, like Michael Caine said when he accepted the role of Scrooge for Christmas Carol, I want something that my kids and grandkids can watch. And a lot of people, have families. A lot of people have children, young children that know the Muppets, that like the Muppets, and can watch mommy or daddy working alongside Kermit the Frog. So that's a wonderful thought to lean into.
What do the Muppets mean to you?
I think the Muppets to me means a sense of creative freedom. It means a sense of family and community and acceptance in the wake of an overbearing and unpredictable world. But the Muppets, who see themselves as outcasts, never really feel alone in that sense. And they're always embracing one another. They're always happy to work together despite their differences, no matter how large and different and scary or small or cute and scaly these characters are. They mesh so well together and embrace one another in that sense. That's really inspiring. And we can only hope in times like this that are so precarious that the Muppets can provide such an example that we can coexist in this world, that we can all put on that grand show together and put our differences aside. And I think that's sort of what they mean to me. How about you?
For me, so I mentioned in our Welcome to podcast how my nan used to record the reruns here in Australia. So we had 3 stations back in the early 90s, 7, 9, 10. And Channel 10 would air the reruns of the Muppet Show, the original 70s, 80s version, at like 6 a.m. apparently on weekdays. And I obviously was too young to be getting up at that time, but my nan, when she was still working, she would record these reruns for me, and I'd go to nan's place after school, whatever, and I'd watch the reruns repeatedly. And I just have such great memories of going to nan's place and watching the Muppets. That's where I watched the Muppets. It was at nan's house. And we lost her just before COVID in early 2020. And it just, when I sat down on that couch last night and I heard the music and I saw that they basically just redid the original show. They didn't try and change anything. I wasn't sitting on the couch in 2026. I was sitting with my nan, cuddled under a blanket, watching the Muppet Show again. And I think the Muppets for me is what keeps, well, one of the things that keeps her memory alive with me is because when I think of the Muppets, I think of my nan. So it was a real emotional experience last night watching the show and going, I know nan would have loved this as well.
And there's also a feeling of not just nostalgia, but vindication in being a fan for many years.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Being a fan that was often alone in the appreciation and knowledge of the Muppets, to see such a response being so universally accepted by people who don't normally check in with the Muppets, who don't know many of the characters by names, liking what they do, wanting to see more, makes me feel like I had it right all along, that I knew what was great, that what was entertaining, what was funny ahead of all these other people. And it's a sense of vindication. You know, it's a sense of pride that one feels knowing that the thing that you were harboring all these years is actually really well liked, and that it's not you that's the problem, it's the rest of the world that hasn't accepted that. And it's great that people are catching on to that.
I think it's also important too, the Muppets fandom, it's very unique because, as you said, it's almost like everyone's now starting to catch on, oh, the Muppets are great. No, they're fantastic. Why have I not been sort of paying attention to them all these years? And you find with many fandoms, once that starts to happen, the original fans tend to rebel against it and go, oh, well, now everyone likes them. I liked them first. Muppet fans aren't like that. Muppet fans open their arms and go, yes, come enjoy it with us. The more people who enjoy the Muppets, the more Muppets we're going to get. And this is one of those versions of the Muppets. This feels like the Muppet Show that I grew up on. Not that it was new when I was a kid, but what I watched when I was a kid. And it's like, see, now we can go back and watch the reruns together. See, the Muppets is good. I wasn't weird for liking the Muppets when I was a kid. You guys just didn't quite get it yet.
Yes, and it's like you can recommend things and people will say, oh, I've slept on that. No, I should go revisit that. Oh, this person worked with the Muppets too. Well, I can go watch that now. And it opens up a wonderful gate of entertainment and media with the Muppets that is just readily available at our disposal. And I'm so happy that these new fans, especially the younger people, have such a well of material that they can now tune into as they anticipate what's to come. So that's the most exciting part, I'd say.
I don't think I'm speaking out of line here. I may be. Let me know, listeners, talkingmuppets@gmail.com. Is this the first time in your lifetime, and obviously in mine as well, that the Muppets have felt cool?
Well, no, not the first time. There was a brief resurgence with the Jason Segel 2011 movie titled The Muppets.
Yes.
And I was seeing them. I was seeing them quite a bit. They were on Good Morning America and The Today Show and on talk shows and night shows and music videos. And they had a whole section at the Disney stores and the theme parks with Muppet merchandise. But they didn't quite know what to do after that point. And I think we sort of saw that in the direction that they took with the Muppets in just a few years after that movie, where it was all this momentum that depleted before our eyes. And that's not to say that they were dead. That's not to say that things they were putting out was bad necessarily. It just didn't have that immediate click like this one has. It didn't have that staying power. And like you said earlier with Muppets Most Wanted, I thought it was very good. I thought it was a very funny movie. Not a lot of people checked that movie out. In fact, it flopped.
That's the reason
at the box office.
There's a reason we didn't get a third one. Yeah.
Yes. They didn't know what to do with them, and there hasn't been a Muppet movie since then. And they tried a series a year later. That one got canceled after a season. They tried Muppets Now. That was done after 6 episodes. They tried Muppets Mayhem, which I thought was very good.
I loved my kids adore Muppets Mayhem. They were literally watching it last week, not aware that there was a new Muppet Show even coming out.
Slept on.
Yeah.
Slept on. Yes, totally slept on. But this, I think, has that sort of momentum behind it. I think it's got people's attention, and it opens a realm of possibilities for what they can do next, and really just shows if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly right.
The original was perfect, and they have the exact right formula. It works today. People still do sketch comedies. In fact, there's a whole realm of that on YouTube right now with entertainers doing all sorts of stuff like that. They can probably get that kind of momentum going for them, and I think that they will. So people like that. People like randomness. They like the sort of chaoticness of sketch comedy, and it may have been viewed as dated at the time, but I think absolutely not. I think people like that. I think people like to see celebrities and Muppets interact. They like to see things that make you think, things that really sort of let you relax and have a suspension of disbelief that, oh, look, there's a talking horse. Okay, well, there's a talking eagle. There's these monsters roaming around. That's awesome, and no one questions it. And people just want to feel that sense of imagination again right now.
I mentioned to you before we recorded, just over Messenger, how to me it didn't feel like a 2026 version of the Muppets. It just felt like the Muppets just in 2026. But you're saying there, like, the Muppets is an escape. It's an escape from not reality, but just sort of like the worries of the world, I guess you can say, because what I liked in here was there was no real technology. So there was no mobile phones, there was no HD TVs, nothing to try and make it feel like it's the new Muppets. It was just, like I said, an escape from the worries of the world. And I think that's what makes the Muppets so perfect, is that for 22 minutes, or this one for 32, but usually a TV show goes for 22 or so minutes, is you can watch it with your kids or by yourself or whatever, and adults can watch it, and they've got a reason to just feel like a kid again. It's okay to be corny. It's okay to be silly for a little while. Just believe that these puppets are real beings, and just turn your worries off. Just have fun for 20 minutes.
That's right, and that's really what the Muppets represent. It's just escape.
Yep.
And that creative freedom is what people yearn for. They want to see crazy madcap things happening. They want to see these innocent and safe yet crazy and chaotic things going on, and it's a wonderful experience that we can have that again. And like you said, Muppets in 2026. I was very glad and surprised that they didn't lean into sort of these modern references and modern tech, which I felt may have aged the ABC show, the 2016 show, a little bit. And this one certainly feels like a natural continuation from the show. It feels like nothing skipped a beat, just right back to it. And I could see every bit of that as being performed by the original performers or being written by the original people. I could see all of that being done by the original crew as maybe a lost episode from season 5 or so. And it just works perfectly like that.
Yeah, it's been said in interviews that this is meant to be treated like it's season 6, basically. It's just that no time has transpired, essentially, except the guest stars are current stars. But in the lead up, a lot of the controversies come around the voice of Kermit, right? So I'm not going to lie. There have been times where I've said, I can't get used to this. This is not the Kermit voice that I grew up, Matt Vogel, right? So I was watching this, though, and I realized I watched it from start to finish, and not once did it enter my mind, it doesn't sound like Kermit. Whether that's just because I was swept up in the visuals of the Muppet Theatre or whatnot, but I wasn't distracted by it like I thought I was going to be going into it. And I watched it with my kids this morning, and not once, and they love all the old Muppets, and they love Muppets Mayhem and the Muppets movies that came out like 15 years ago or whatnot. And not once did they go, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like Kermit. I think it's just a lot of old people who just want to, it's valid to say that it doesn't sound like the Kermit that we grew up on. But to say it's going to ruin the show, I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Oh, most certainly it is. And people forget very easily just how starkly in contrast Steve Whitmire's Kermit was from Jim Henson's after Jim's passing. And I think what was the balance between that was Steve was given a plethora of things within his first 10 years, between 1990 and 2000 as Kermit the Frog. 3 movies, a TV show, Sesame Street appearances, commercials, albums, appearances on TV, and countless interviews and things like that. Kermit was everywhere throughout the 1990s. It never really felt like he was lost.
The Muppets were relevant still. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I think compare that with Steve Whitmire, as Matt Vogel as Kermit, I would say there's probably less than a quarter of that level of exposure in the past decade. They've done some interviews and YouTube stuff, not a whole lot.
The Haunted Mansion special on Disney Plus.
Muppet Haunted Mansion special, which Kermit was not a main character in. And not a ton of stuff compared to what Steve was blessed with over the course of 10 years. But I think this has the ability to last a few years, however long they choose to do it for, and can get people accustomed to Kermit's voice. I was certainly finding myself really seeing this as Kermit as opposed to, oh, this is a new person playing Kermit. Now, that's Kermit the Frog I'm watching now, and I was comfortable with it. I was happy with it. I've enjoyed his performance, and I think where he works best is in this role as the head honcho of the Muppet Show, and it worked very well with the Muppets at the Hollywood Bowl, which had a similar format, the Muppets at the O2. And in this position, he really thrives. You get to see this whole emotional range where Kermit is cunning, Kermit is sort of backhanded, Kermit is can be a little selfish, can be a little demanding, can be a little angry, can be a little shisty, can be funny, can be playful, can be glad, can be joyous. You don't get that level of emotional range and depth over Kermit appearing in a pistachio commercial or a watch commercial or anything like that. You're not getting the full extent of Kermit the Frog, but you can when you get to see him in front of that red curtain or behind the scenes, wrangling together all these crazy circumstances and characters and dynamics. That's the Kermit that we know. That's the Kermit that we want. You don't quite get that same feeling when Kermit's in a 2-minute appearance here and there every couple of weeks or months or years,
or on a talk show, because that's not where Kermit feels like the character himself feels comfortable.
Right, that's not where he thrives. That's not where the character originates from. Kermit should be the talk show host, and I think that's where you can get a greater range of who Kermit is if you let Kermit host. And they did that. Kermit's at the head of the Muppet Pack again, and it feels like himself. So they did a great job with that, and I know that they'll continue to do a great job with Kermit's characterization moving forward.
Do you think Matt's voice has evolved over time? I think it slightly has. I think if I listened to it from the Haunted Mansion special to what I watched last night and this morning, it feels a little more closer to the Henson version more than the Whitmire version, I think.
I've certainly noticed he sounds better, in my opinion, when he's singing, and is allowed a more dynamic range vocally. That's not to say that his speaking voice is bad or jarring or anything like that, but singing Kermit allows him more flexibility vocally, and I think really at the end of the day, just giving him more exposure, more things to do, more storylines like this lets him really flesh out the character and make it his own, as opposed to the common online sentiment that this is a new guy doing Kermit. So I think people will get used to it, and they should get used to it, because there really isn't any alternative. Steve Whitmire will not be Kermit again, unfortunately, but that's the way things go. And we have to adapt. We have to move forward. We did it when Jim died and when Jerry Nelson died and Frank Oz retired and Richard Hunt passed. So the Muppets are all about moving forward, not looking back.
Another thing I loved about this special was the feel of the Muppet Theatre. It looked fresh, but it still didn't feel fancy. It felt, dirty's not the right word, but it still felt sort of divey.
Used.
Used. Yeah. That's the right word, yeah. Yeah, but it also looked like they'd really just studied, and I think they had the blueprints of the original studio that they built. They did. Like even the photo frames in the background of the guest room and things like that, they were all the same. And it just, as you said, it was nostalgic for me. I just went, they care. And I think that's what made me smile the most. I was like, whoever has made this, they care so much to have the little details like that, you know?
Yes. And I would even say I think I enjoyed this more than the 2011 movie.
I did
seen
too.
it twice now. Especially with regards to the set design. They did something with the 2011 movie, which was try to expand the scope of the theater. And you're seeing all these different angles and doors and alleyways and backways in the backstage that were never in the show. And it looks different. It looks too big for the Muppets. It looks far
too grand. Yeah.
Too grand, yes. And not the kind of theater. It didn't look like it was a Muppet theater. This one does look like the Muppet Theater. It looks like it would have been the one from the 1970s and 80s. The 2011 movie didn't quite have that feel. And, you know, we're told, okay, this is the Muppet Theater that they're in. They're shaping it up to do the telethon. But I didn't quite feel that this was their home necessarily. I didn't feel like this was the Muppet Show when they were doing that movie. This feels like the Muppet Show. This feels like the grand return, the fitting return for the Muppets. And I think what really sells it to me is that it didn't get too sentimental with it. And when it does, it plays it for laughs. And we can talk about that as we dissect each part of it. But, you know, there's that moments where, oh, well, I don't know how we're going to do this. And it's like, shut up. And they just do it anyways. And I like that. I like that they can make fun of that. And that it's not this perpetual cycle of, oh, well, the Muppets got to put on one last show or the Muppets are doomed and stuff like that. No, the Muppets are back. They're having fun, and then they'll be back for more. That's the way I felt with this. I'm confident that they'll be doing more and that this isn't the end of the Muppets in the way that they've cast just about every one of the last few things in the past 10 years or so, where oh, the Muppets have to do this one last show. We gotta get the Muppets again. We're getting the Muppets back together again. How many times we've heard that? The Muppets are here this time. We don't have to get them back together. They're here. They're doing their thing. This is what we want, and they're gonna keep doing their thing. And this is exactly what the world needs right now. We don't need to get into that schmaltzy sort of sentimental sappiness, which Jim did not like, by the way. He wasn't a big fan of the sappiness, and Kermit didn't like that either.
Really? Okay.
Yes, he didn't want it to be too cute. Too sad.
Apparently his Kermit was a lot angrier.
Yeah. And so I think this is the proper direction for Kermit. This is the proper direction for the Muppets. It doesn't have that sort of gloom and doom backdrop behind it. And instead it's just, hey, the Muppets are back. Here's the show. Watch it. All right. You enjoy it? Well, we're going to do some more. And that's the way I feel about it. It's great.
Yeah. I like that you touched on the sentimental value there too, because I was really hoping when they got towards the end there and Kermit said, "Do you trust me?" And he went out on that stage and I thought, please, this might sound silly. I said, please don't sing Rainbow Connection.
Rainbow Connection.
I was like,
yeah.
And when he started singing the Queen's Don't Stop, I was like, thank goodness. I was like, because that would have been too schmaltzy, you know, too predictable.
Yep. Yes, and I'm glad that they didn't do that because they've leaned into that far too much. And Kermit has a much wider repertoire of songs and new songs that the Muppets haven't done. And I'm glad that they did that. We got to see and hear new things that the Muppets haven't sung before. Modern songs written this century even. So that was refreshing, but also maintain that classic sensibility to it. I'm glad that they didn't do Rainbow Connection. They touched up on it in the beginning with Rolf, but like I said, immediately, Kermit, we're doing the show again. Screw all this sadness, screw this sentimental stuff. We're doing the show. Get to it. Get up. Stop moping around. That's what I want. I'm tired of seeing the Muppets broken up, sad, having to get back together again. I did a video recently with a Kermit puppet. Hey guys, we got to get back together again. And I'm glad we're actually here. We don't have to do all this again. We are back. We're doing a show. And that's what matters at the end of the day.
Exactly right.
The fun. That's always what it's been about, is having fun.
Yeah. Now let's touch on the guests. So Sabrina Carpenter was the main guest of this episode. I thought she turned out to be a fantastic option. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know too much about Sabrina Carpenter. You know, I don't know many of her songs. I had heard Man-Child before on the radio or whatnot, but I'm not a diehard fan of Sabrina. So I was like, okay, well, they're choosing one of the biggest stars in the world. That's clever in itself because it's going to get people in just because of her brand. But I just thought she just fits so well into the Muppet universe. She clearly respected the Muppet brand, where the way she interacted with them, she treated them like they were living beings. She didn't treat this experience like she was above it. She felt like she belonged in it.
Oh, yeah. And it's so refreshing. Sabrina and I are the same age, I believe. And it's so nice to see someone my age engaging with the Muppets as she did and having fun with them and leaning into them and not seeing them as like, oh, this is somebody that's got a piece of cloth on their hand, but actual living creatures and timeless celebrities that have played such a monumental role throughout entertainment over the past 70 years or so. And I'm glad that she recognized that. I'm glad that she saw and met the moment for what it was. And a perfect choice. It couldn't have been any better than Sabrina Carpenter with this pick. And she was wonderful. She was very engaging. She was very funny. And I liked that she had an appropriate amount of screen time for this and didn't outshine the Muppets, which far too often seems to have been the case. And as I was saying about the 2011 movie, Jason Segel, I think, appears more than Gonzo does. Appears more than some of the Muppets do. Has more scenes with them. Same with Amy Adams and Tex Richmond. All these human characters and the cameos. There were lots of cameos in those two movies. Not so much cameos and speaking parts for the Muppets themselves, but this time around we see a lot of Muppets. The screen is just beaming with Muppets all around, and they're in their element. They're doing their things. They're funny. They're bright. They're vibrant. They look wonderful. And I'm so glad that the Muppets were the actual spotlight in the Muppet Show. And I'm sure you've heard the discourse in recent years, cast a celebrity in a Muppet movie kind of thing, that trend where people are wanting the Muppets in new movies or remaking Muppet movies. The problem with that is that puts too much focus on the celebrity as opposed to the Muppets. But this has the Muppets front and center. Sabrina is in a very appropriate level of screen time and interaction, but does not outshine them, does not outpace them at all. And I'm glad that they struck that very fine balance with this, which far too often seems to not be the case in modern stuff.
Which must have been a difficult task, because you think about it, she's Sabrina Carpenter. She's arguably top 10 biggest music.
She's hot.
Yeah, she's one of the biggest stars in the world.
She's a big star.
And for her to not outshine the Muppets is a real task. And I think one of the things that did help that, maybe that you say that, because I hadn't really picked up on that, is that she wasn't a part of the final number. The final number was the Muppets.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important, because it's as if to say, these are the stars of the show. And then he welcomed Sabrina out at the end, as they always did. And I love that they had the original credits and whatnot. But you're right. Yeah, Sabrina did not outshine the Muppets. And that was very important. You're right. Yeah. And I was a bit concerned when I saw Seth Rogen in the trailer. I thought, what role is he going to play? Do you think he's going to be playing like the JP Gross role, like Scooter's uncle?
I don't think so. And I should hope not. That's actually one of the critiques, if I have any of note, is that I don't want there to be too many humans in this. And at some point, if we do go down the likes and dislikes, that'd be one of them. But I'm glad that he did not overstay his welcome in this, and that the scene that he did have was more so about Fozzie's characterization as opposed to him. And that he wasn't the one stealing the spotlight, that he wasn't the one making the joke about Fozzie, but Fozzie is making a joke at his expense, and that he's this big-time exec that's not got a spot in this show. I like that, and I hope that this doesn't become a thing where this is his role in the show. I have no control either way, but yeah, I hope that that's not the case. But we'll see. If it works, it works. I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know. I would rather it be a Muppet, if anything, but it is what it is. Thing with the Muppet Show is there's supposed to be one human, and it's the special guest, and the rest of it is to be Muppets. And if there's too many, I worry it would crowd it a little bit. It would take the focus away from the characters, but I didn't quite feel that sense with this one. I just hope that that's not the move moving forward, if that is the case.
My critique is very similar, and I thought my critique was Maya Rudolph in this. I thought she was the weakest of the guests. Her banter with Beautiful Day Monster was kind of random, And for me, it killed the flow of the show because, I might be wrong, but I can't recall a time in the original series where we saw banter between audience members. So if I'm watching the Muppet Show, I want to watch the Muppets preparing their skits and doing their skits in the backstage shenanigans. I don't want to watch interactions with audience members because it takes me out of the moment of being an audience member myself. I want to feel like I'm in the studio, in the audience, watching the show. I don't want to be watching these two people interact in the audience. And in saying that also, I felt there was too many humans in the audience. I don't know, that was one of the changes they made. The original series was all puppets, obviously, in the audience. Seeing all these humans in the crowd, I wasn't quite sure about that change. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was another thing that I noted here, too. I wrote too many humans. And I likened it to, or rather, I sort of assumed it was due to how many Muppets they actually have in their archives that are usable and functional, as well as the amount of puppeteers that they could have used. Whether or not green screen would have been available or would have been too tricky is always a question, or how they would have done it. But I wrote down too many humans. And I think, as I was saying, I like the idea of the Muppets sort of existing in that theater is just populated with Muppets. And the human is walking into the lion's den to be surrounded by literal lions and creatures and birds and bugs and aliens and things like that, and then leaves the theater unscathed. I like that idea, but the humans make it feel a little too close to reality.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea that this is just a place where all these things are inside, that all these things inhabit. Humans sort of takes me out of that just a little bit. It's odd seeing humans in the audience, and they did that, of course, with the last two movies, was an all human audience, and Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie,
which I didn't like.
It was an interesting change, but there were some Muppets in the audience, some more obscure Muppets, that was fun to see. But for as many humans as it was, I felt like there weren't enough Muppets to fill out the audience. I felt like there was a little too much humans involved. And I wouldn't say it was distracting. It was just, it was odd to see that many humans in a Muppet Show. This is the Muppets after all, but it is what it is. And that's something I can certainly get used to. I would just personally prefer, if it's going to be like the original show, that it just be relegated to one human being for the night, and the rest is just a population of Muppets.
But that's what we sort of didn't like. But there's other criticisms that we'll get to. But what did you like in particular about this?
So my list here, starting off with the theme recreation. It is a nearly shot-for-shot recreation of the season 5 intro, with the ladies' chorus and the men's chorus and Statler and Waldorf and the orchestra, the big Muppet monsters going through the archways, which now has 5, like the original one. The movies did not have 5, but they've got a 5th monster.
And that bothered me to no end.
An empty little gap. And they go through it this time. Thog actually goes through the archways. The big grand finale looks just like the original show. They have all the characters in it. The movie, for whatever reason, had some empty spots at the top, which bothered me. But this one looks great. And another thing about that, which leads into another thing I liked, was during the intro, you can see the arm rods, which they haven't done. They have not shown arm rods aside from live appearances. You don't really see that. They've edited them out in the past 20 years or so. They've been editing those out. But we really get to see how the Muppets work by allowing them their arm rods and the arm socks, which is for the live hand Muppets like Bunsen and Beaker and Fozzie. You can see the arm socks on their arms, not edited out. And that adds a level of realism, that adds a level of consistency, which I was not expecting. They look great with that, and allows us to really study how the Muppets work in real time. It was cool seeing Miss Piggy's arm rods and Kermit's again. I love the amount of obscure Muppets that they brought back and appear to have rebuilt. Gaffer the Cat backstage with the eye patch.
How great was Gaffer being back?
I loved that. Miss Mousy caught me by surprise. Zelda Rose was a surprise. George the Janitor, Mildred Huckstetter. All of these obscure Muppets who have not been seen at all in decades suddenly returning. The Muppet Frackles are back, and they had a wonderful opening number with Sabrina Carpenter. That was a delight to see. And I love that there was a mix of old and new Muppets. From Muppets Tonight, you've got Pepe the King Prawn and Salmonella and Johnny Fiamma, excuse me, and a load of other characters, Big Mean Carl, interacting with characters from the original show. You see Hilda and Uncle Deadly and Lou Zealand and Mana back there. So it was a nice combination of the old and the new, and it felt like this is where they should be. That these newer Muppets work very well with the older Muppets. They look wonderful together. I like that combination. In addition to that, the sets were spot on, perfect recreations. And I saw a behind the scenes picture earlier. It looks as though they built an actual theater for this. The backstage connects to the onstage, and there's an actual orchestra pit and an actual audience, all within a soundstage.
I have to go there. As a kid, I just dreamed of visiting the Muppet Theatre. And now that I know this thing exists, I have to go visit this place.
And even better, it's on the same lot, the Fox Studio lot, as The Simpsons. So someday I'd love to sit in on a Simpsons episode or even work on one and then go down to see the Muppets in the soundstage. So that was very cool.
So you can work in The Simpsons in the morning and go work in the afternoon at the Muppets.
Go with Muppets in the night. That's the dream. That's the dream.
But with the backstage, you're right. I loved the camera angle. It felt like the original camera angle. It felt like literally felt like you're watching the original Muppet Show. If just the way it was shot, I said like the camera angle slightly looking up to the stairs, gaff on the corner there and whatnot. It was great.
Yes, they added some new camera angles too, which I loved, and we get to see different angles. Scooter knocking on the door was a very clever angle, and Kermit walking through to the entryway where Pops is stationed to his desk was a very wonderful shot. But as far as I understand it, they used the original blueprints for the old show from the 1970s, and that was, of course, shot in England at ATV Studios between 76 and 81. They have all the original blueprints. They've perfectly recreated the Muppet Show backstage, and Muppet Labs and Miss Piggy's dressing room is a shot-for-shot recreation. Everything is to those models, and it looks beautiful. Looks like they haven't skipped a day. Looks like it's the exact same theater, which was not the vibe that I got from the movies or Very Merry Muppet Christmas. It looked like a set. It looked like a different theater. This one looks like this is the Muppet Theater, the actual theater where they belong. Did you want to jump in here? I don't want to overtalk.
No, it's fine. Well, touching on the backstage areas, you were mentioning as well how in the movies they added rooms and made it feel more grand. But I remember as a kid watching the original show, sometimes they would go to different rooms that you didn't see very often, and it felt special when they did. So I'm talking about there was the boiler room, there was the canteen, the cafeteria was another one. I hope that, for me personally, I hope they do visit those areas again if they do get picked up, but they keep it to the way it originally looked.
Yes, I agree. And they have room to add more. A basement or an attic, a storage room, or...
Well, they have been to an attic before on the Muppet Show.
They have, yes. Yes. I love to see that. I love to see that. The lobby area where you enter the place or even outside of the theater would be fun. The parking lot, that would be a lot of that has a lot of potential to it. And I love to see something like that.
I also just wanted to throw into when you were mentioning the rods before, because that was the first thing my son noticed. He goes, "You can see the rod on her arm," and I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "It was almost like it took him out of it." And then all of a sudden he was brought right back in. He was so surprised to see that. But my thing is though, I appreciated immensely that they did that, because that is paying tribute to the original show. But I feel like if you're making this special, you've got to commit. Are these going to be puppets, or are they going to be treated like they're living beings? And in the final sequence, you see Kermit standing on stage full body with no rods.
That was interesting.
That was an interesting shot to me. Like, you've gone all this way to not remove the rods and basically say, hey, they're puppets, because it's the Muppet Show. But then you're still trying to make him feel like he's not a puppet at the end. I wasn't quite sure about that one either. I sort of went, like, I'm happy to go with it, but it just felt weird. They go, well, if you're going to show the rods, why would you then show him full body?
That was a little odd to me, too. And they did something else, Bunsen Honeydew, as he's putting drops in Beaker's eyes. They removed the arm sock for him. That was interesting. I was surprised that they did that, but not. There's a shot with New Zealand that's got his whole arm sock visible, and Fozzie and all the other Muppets have him. I don't know. Picking and choosing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I also wasn't a huge fan of the CGI for the beaker eyeballs.
I don't know how they did that one, actually. It might have been a prop, but...
No, when the eyeballs... It was when they were flying in the crowd. Right? When they were flying in the crowd, and you can see the guy, he's sitting next to Maya, and you can tell he's like pretending to avoid these eyeballs, and there's nothing even hitting him, but he's doing this because he's obviously been told, hey, pretend that there's eyeballs flying everywhere. So this guy sitting next to her doing all this, but there's actually no eyeballs going near her. I just sort of thought, I don't know if I want CGI in my Muppet Show, but maybe that's just a tweak that you're just going to have to get used to in 2026 version of the Muppets. Is we've got this capability now, and would Jim Henson have utilized that? I don't know.
Yeah, I certainly think he would have done something like that. And he did use CGI towards the end of his life. There was the Labyrinth owl, and Muppet Vision, of course, relies on CG quite a great deal. So almost certainly that would have been something he'd lean into. My only thing is I like we were saying about the rods, I just wish it were consistent with how they utilized it and what things they wanted to hide, what things they wanted to show. I'm sure that if it goes to series, they'll find a finer balance. I loved that they brought back old song cues, musical cues and stings. When Gonzo is introduced, you hear da-da-da-da-da. That's a season 1 track. Muppet Labs does the same thing. That felt like home. It felt more classic and in tune with the show than, like I said, what they did with the movies, which didn't use those old cues. But this one does. It feels like the old Muppet Show. It feels straight out of the old show. And that brought me great deal of nostalgia to hear. Another thing I liked, Fozzie's characterization is much stronger this time around. And sort of what they've done with him the past 15, 20 years was make him dumb, which I didn't like. Fozzie's always been a little dim, but he's never been absolutely clueless and just downright helpless.
I thought he felt, helpless. I was going to say helpless. He felt hopeless and helpless, especially in the 2011 movie where he's like living out in an alleyway. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like that they made Fozzie just an idiot, really.
I don't want to feel sorry for him because he's pathetic. He shouldn't be pathetic. I mean, he's pathetic in that his jokes aren't good, but he's not a pathetic being.
But he's competent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can exist in this world. Fozzie could have easily gotten a job as like a waiter or something, or a guy taking orders from a jack-in-the-box and giving jokes to the speakerphone. That's something I could see him doing, but not completely useless or anything. And this felt like Fozzie was back. Seeing him engage with Seth Rogen was a lot of fun, and sort of putting him in his place inadvertently was a lot of fun. Fozzie, and then bumping him with his big balloon hat was very funny.
I like it when Fozzie is oblivious more than stupid.
Yes, exactly. Fozzie he doesn't know that this is Seth Rogen, executive producer. He's going to cut him anyways. That's the joke of it. And the way Fozzie enters the scene, he says something to Kermit after Piggy storms off. Kermit, I overheard because I was spying on you. That was a lot of fun. And Fozzie, he's playing it up with the prop comedy, and he's got a giant pair of scissors to cut the axe and his big balloon hat for the thinking cap. That was a lot of fun. I do wish we got a bit from Fozzie. But what we did get was very much in tune with how Fozzie was in the original show, which was like an unofficial second in command. Whenever Kermit wasn't there, Kermit was hurt or sick, Fozzie would take charge and he'd try to run it. That felt like that in that moment.
I think that was a choice. The fact that we didn't get a Fozzie bit, because you don't want to throw out all the hits in the first special. You want people to want more. Like I was hoping we were going to get a Muppet Hospital. What is it? Muppet?
Oh, Vets Hospital.
Vets Hospital. Sorry, yes, or Pigs in Space. Or the Swedish Chef.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we're going.
No, they didn't overdo it.
No, I was waiting for the Pigs in Space because you saw him. What's the dude? The Pigs in Space characters' names?
Link Hogthrob and Dr. Julius Transport.
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
they were there in costume. Yeah.
In costume, and I thought, we're going to get a Pigs in Space, and we didn't. But you know what? That's okay because it's just the first episode. Yeah.
There's room for more.
Yes.
Yes. I enjoyed that, and I like seeing them. I like seeing them mix it up with some of the new and old characters. Janice is back as that sort of spiritual healer guru type character, which was a characterization that they introduced in the ABC series and carried into with the Muppets Mayhem thing. That Janice is this like new age sort of spiritual healer
Hippie.
guru character, and hippie, yes. And her meditation scene with Kermit was very fun. That's a bit of Muppet continuation and canon that I do enjoy, and really one of the characters that has shined after the death of her original performer, Richard Hunt, has this whole new life to her that we didn't quite get to see during the original iteration of her character. So I like seeing that.
Matt's the new voice, right?
David Rubman is the new
David,
Janice.
okay,
He's
yeah.
also Scooter
Scooter,
and Beaker. Yes. So he's doing a great job with those characters.
Oh, no, does he do Floyd?
Matt is Floyd, yeah, and all the Jerry Nelson characters, which is one of the things I'll talk about in a moment when we get to the other subjects here. But yes, he's Kermit, and he's the Jerry Nelson characters, and he's Sweetums. I liked Gonzo's running gag of him zipping by on the motorized roller skates, citing the names of every Best Academy Award winning supporting actress. Was very funny.
That was my favorite segment. That was my standout segment for the episode. That's what made me smile the most, because it just felt so Gonzo to do all this whilst reciting the Oscar winners of the Best Supporting Actress. Like, not even the main actress, Best Supporting Actress. I was like, this is so Gonzo. It's so obscure, so random, so bizarre, but it just fits the character so perfectly, and it's why Gonzo still to this day is my favorite Muppet. He's the one I connected with the most because he's just such a bizarre being.
Oh yeah, I love that. And they haven't really done running gags in recent years. Come to think of it, I can't think of any running gags that they've done, even within the movies. Now that I think of maybe Tex Richmond not being able to laugh, but I don't know if that was really a gag more so than a plot point.
This was almost like an arc for the episode, wasn't it? Gonzo just occasionally coming through. Yeah,
and it serves the plot because he zips through and he takes the list and he's zipping through the song. So that was really fun and adds to the chaos of it. Glad that he got a spotlight moment. And I like the ongoing backstage plot, which the original show was known for, whether it was Miss Piggy being fired backstage or Robin the Frog feeling overlooked or Fozzie trying to take on a new tough persona or trying to write the show or whatever, Kermit being sick or Kermit breaking a leg. It was the backstage plots that sort of guided the show each night and sort of fed into what was happening on stage is what's happening off stage. And I really enjoyed that they did that. The premise this time being that the Muppets are back and there's too many of them to cast properly in the show. That built up to the end sequence, which was very fun, very lavish to see. Characters like Miss Mousy and George the Janitor and Mildred Huckstetter singing alongside the Electric Mayhem and Kermit and Fozzie and all the other mainstay Muppets. That was very fun to see.
So what was your standout segment? Because I touched on mine. Mine was Gonzo. I don't think I laughed as hard as I did when Gonzo said he's going to recite the Best Supporting Actress. I thought that was just so great and everything I loved about the Muppets.
I have to say Rizzo the Rat doing a cover of The Weeknd. That was really fun. And the song's called Blinded by the Lights. Is that
Blinding
right?
Lights, yeah.
Blinding Lights.
Blinded by the light. That's the song you're thinking of.
I always mix those two up. I always mix them up. But yes, that was fun. We got to see the return of Riz the Rat performed by my friend, Bradley Freeman Jr., who's a puppeteer on Sesame Street. He's getting to do his first talking characters with the Muppets. He is Rizzo the Rat and Bean Bunny.
I think it was their way of trying to earn some goodwill with us fans by saying, hey, Rizzo's not just back, he's got his own bit.
Yes, so that was a very distinguished return, and all the rats was like a very Muppet Show kind of thing that they would do with all these like rat characters on stage doing something, and Beauregard is backstage. That got a big laugh out of me of him destroying what looks like the fuse box, working the lights. That was very funny.
That was a new change they brought to this that I don't think we did much in the original series, because I feel like in the original run, the Muppets would do these skits and things would just go wrong and they just have to roll with the punches, right? Where this time, in both the first two songs in particular at least, they showed you why things were going wrong.
Things happening, yeah.
Yeah, so you never used to see what was causing the issue, where the first one, it was, is it Crazy Harry? Is that his name?
Crazy Harry, yes.
Yeah, who turned it to hurricane and caused the big storm in Manchild. Then he had Beauregard tip his coffee on the electrical box and caused the lights to go out for a second in blinding lights, yeah.
Yeah, those were another thing that I did like. I forgot to mention that, but I liked those little in-between moments here, seeing things behind the scenes on the wings or in the orchestra pit or in the audience. I like that, and oftentimes there's this wonder, and they even joked about it in the original show. Waldorf says, there's parts of this show where sometimes things don't happen on stage. And Statler says, yeah, I try not to think about that. And this sort of leans into that moment. We see the audience sort of murmuring among themselves between the acts. We see what they're doing, what the people on the wings and the crews are doing during the show. I like that. I often wonder, okay, who's working this behind the scenes? Who's pulling these levers? Who's pulling these strings? Who's doing that and working these lights? We get to see that. And there's a bit of that in the original show. Another opening of another show was one of those instances, but they leaned into that this time around, and that is one of the things that I did enjoy, was seeing the audience interact and talk throughout the show. I like seeing those different angles, those new elements to it that we didn't quite get, and that those are the new factors that work and would have worked in the original show, in my opinion.
I think for me, it was just, I'm probably fine with seeing audience members engage, but I think it was just the Maya and what's that Muppet called? Is it the Beautiful Day Monster?
Beautiful Day Monster?
Beautiful Day Monster.
Yeah.
It just felt very slow-paced and random, that bit for me. And I think I'm so used to the erratic nature of the Muppets that I was like this, and this felt like it had been very fast-paced up to that point, and then it's just her having this random conversation with him. I thought, so it took me out of it for a little bit. That's just me.
Yeah, It is one of those things that could have been cut, but I'm glad that it's still in there. It's a quick laugh. It's funny. It doesn't serve the plot at all.
It gives us a Muppet news flash, at least.
Yes, yeah, that is a segment they brought back. But it was just a bit of a random moment that caught me off guard and was just a funny thing. And I was saying earlier, I hope that, I don't know how I'd feel if they did more of that. If they had, I don't know, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the audience for an episode, or Terry Crews or something. I want to focus on who's backstage, who the main guest star is. And there being too many Muppet Show guest stars would be a little odd to me. I don't know.
I don't want it to be subplots with guests who aren't the main guest on the stage.
Yeah. So I liked it. Overall, I thought it was a very fun spotlight of Beautiful Day Monster. And They, Bill Beretta, who was performing that, had worked with Maya Rudolph on Happy Time Murders, the film that I had mentioned earlier. So there's definitely a connection, and I know that they'll be utilizing more of that as the road forward ahead goes with the Muppets.
Now, did you have any favorite moments in particular from this episode?
The theme song.
Yeah.
I definitely loved the theme song, and I rewatched it. I couldn't even get through the full thing without restarting it. But I kept going back. I kept listening to it. The orchestration sounds really solid. It's a perfect recreation of the season 5 theme song, even up in, with the orchestra and everything like that. It's beautiful. It's wonderfully shot. I think if they are to reuse that for the actual show, I think it's perfect. It works perfectly.
I think they will, because it's been released on Spotify. So I think that's the official theme going forward.
I think that's the theme song, yeah. It's perfect. I love the end credits, just something that Statler and Waldorf would probably say. But they had that down. That was a lot of fun. And I love the backstage moments there. And you can really see the puppeteers having fun. There's Big Mean Carl's trying to eat one of the snooths from Manamana backstage. And they stuck one of the eyes from Beaker onto Gaffer the Cat, which I noticed in the rewatch. I paused and I was like, why does he have that huge eye? Oh, it's Beaker's eye. That was a lot of fun.
Which just shows how much attention to detail they gave this, yeah.
Yes. That's, I don't know that I can really isolate particular moments. I loved it all as an amalgamation, but the theme song was just as close to perfect as perfect gets for recreation. It's just all these characters together.
I was going to say, it's even the mannerisms of the Muppets during the theme. Like even the closing credits as well. There's one where Ralph, he flicks the page, he looks at the camera, and then he sort of goes crazy for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, that's a vivid memory in my mind of the closing credits, that part there, Rolf with the piano, flicking the page and seeing his own camera. They even did that exactly as it was in the original. I couldn't believe it.
Yep, and Zoot's saxophone solo was fun, and Lips on the trumpet, and the trombone girl. All of that was just perfect. It looks great. They moved perfectly. Though that does segue into the things that I picked up on that I'm a little critical of, which is Janice's apparent ability to teleport from the orchestra pit to the stage, back down to the orchestra pit. I don't know. I'm very particular about that. And they did that during the Muppets 2011 movie too, which always catches me off guard. But if you're gonna have her she's supposed to be in the she's supposed to be with the women's chorus, not in the orchestra pit. That was just odd to me. I don't know. Something about that was weird.
Also, the band going from in front of the stage to singing "Don't Stop Me Now." From the
stage up on stage somehow. Yeah, that was interesting to me. Rolf is still in the pit for some reason, but it's whatever. It's one of those things you can't really do anything about.
Kids aren't paying attention to that.
Right, but I am. I see you, Janice. I noticed very early on the laugh track is back, which Muppets have not had a laugh track in many years. But they use sort of the generic iCarly kind of laugh track from like the 2010s. And I recognize it when they showed Sabrina Carpenter. There's this noise that I'm so used to hearing in laugh tracks today from Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. That sort of took me out of it, and not significantly. But I do hope that they'll lean into how they recorded it with the original show, which was they'd gather the entire studio into a room and would record their laugh tracks authentically for each episode. That felt more like a fresh audience. It didn't feel like a...
They really did that.
Yes. And that was during a time when they were reusing laugh tracks from the 1950s and 60s. That was an all-new laugh track that they recorded just for the Muppet Show. And it feels like a fresh laugh track each episode. It feels like an authentic and real audience. I hope that they'll do that as opposed to stock laugh track number 3.
See, I can't say that I really grew up on the iCarly era of Nickelodeon, so that didn't stand out to me.
Well, lucky you.
But, I grew up on the Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life era of Nickelodeon.
Yeah. No, I know a reused laugh track when I hear it, and it's not major. It's just something that I did notice, and I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of how many humans there were in the audience. I would have preferred more Muppets. We touched up on that.
Yeah.
One thing that sort of confused me was the storylines throughout the songs. It was Sam the Eagle in the opening number, Man-Child, with Sabrina Carpenter and all these freckles in a bar. I didn't quite get why Sam was a bartender for that one. That sort of, I don't know, that caught me off guard, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because he's usually the grumpy guy. You kind of want a Muppet that's more sort of insecure and easily controlled. Yeah.
Yeah, Fozzie would have worked for that.
Fozzie would have worked.
Fozzie would have been perfect for that. But Sam could have been in another part of the show, perhaps. He looks odd in a bar setting like that. I couldn't see him serving drinks, but Fozzie I could.
I did like the Man-Child use, though. I thought that was a good song to kick off with.
Oh, yes. Perfect opening number, and a Sabrina Carpenter original, too.
Yeah.
The Chickens were an interesting choice for that one, too, as backup singers, which I didn't quite get, but it was still entertaining to watch. It was very funny, and the bit with the feathers and everything. I just sort of wish that there was a narrative to that with that song, and there kind of was with her beating up the rough,
saving the bar for Sam. Yeah.
Yes, but then it was just chickens, and then the chickens' feathers are gone, and I don't know. If it was an original Muppet Show thing, it would have been all chickens, or it would have been all monsters, and it would have gone on. I don't know that the mesh between the two of them made a whole lot of sense, but it was funny. It was fun to watch. I still enjoyed it. So, it works for what it is.
I think the older I've gotten, the more I've appreciated the chickens in the Muppets. I never really
I love
liked them when I was younger, but the older I've got, I'm just like, I liked them singing the Forget You. I think it's a 2011 movie. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I have such good memories of going to the cinema to watch that with my mother and my sister. And my mum was in, no joke, tears of laughter during that. I couldn't quite work out why. And I'm just going, so this is what the Muppets is though, man. It's as Kermit says at the end, hopefully you enjoy something from this. Everyone has their one bit. It might only be one thing that you like, but one thing that just hits you in the right spot and it just brings you to tears. And my mum watching that Forget You by the Chickens was just like the peak of comedy in that moment. She was just, it made me appreciate the Chickens. Now when I look at the Chickens, I think of that moment with my mum in the cinema just in tears of laughter. But I didn't mind the Chickens use here. I particularly liked the horse just sort of dancing in the background.
Oh, yes, Paul Revere.
That just felt very Muppety, where it was just something to cut away to occasionally.
Mm-hmm. I did enjoy that very much. And I love seeing all these old Frackle Muppets back. Blue Frackle and Green Frackle and Mo Frackle, all these characters that we haven't really seen interact with the Muppets in years. They're back, front and center. That was a lot of fun. I just wish that there was a more clear storyline with that, because when they do song segments, they're glorified music videos, so to speak. And there's one that comes to mind. There's a song that they did in the original Muppet Show called I'm So Happy. And it's sung by these dull, decrepit, sad-looking Muppets that are drenched with cobwebs. That's funny because it's ironic. Yeah. This, I didn't quite get the joke. I didn't quite get the story that they were trying to tell. It was fine, though. I enjoyed it. I just wish that there was like a theme, a gag, a narrative to it.
I think they were trying to maybe go for the fact that maybe these men were man-childs. That's maybe what they were going for here.
I think so, yeah. But it was just an interesting blend with having that and then cut to the chickens midway and then, the chicken's feathers. So they would have worked as individual segments, I think.
Yep.
Another thing, the lack of Jerry Nelson characters in this. Matt Vogel is Kermit, of course, but he also inherited the Jerry Nelson characters, which are Pops the Doorman, Uncle Deadly, New Zealand, Julius Strangepork, amongst various other characters, Floyd Pepper.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite see a whole lot of them this time around. And I guess that's because of Kermit.
I don't think they had speaking roles. No, like Pops appeared at the start, but he didn't. He was asleep. Yeah.
They didn't have speaking roles. I didn't hear or see Floyd. Uncle Deadly didn't mix it up with Miss Piggy or Kermit or anybody else. Lou doesn't throw his fish.
I think Floyd was my favorite character in Muppets Mayhem too. The episode where you see how he got animal was probably one of the most emotional moments I've ever seen in the Muppets.
Yes, it was a very strong moment with them. I just thought that those characters are a little underused this time around, and we could have gotten so much comedic potential out of them. Just a quick gag would have worked. We didn't get a whole lot of the Jerry characters, and it's unfortunate. Robin gets a quick line. He's played now by Peter Linz, who was Walter.
Who?
He's not here. But yeah, we.
Why is that? Why is there no Walter anymore? Is there a reason they've just erased him from Muppet history?
My guess is, it's actually funny because I made this joke. If I had $1 for every former Freaks and Geeks cast member that's tried to reboot the Muppets, I'd have $2, which is not a lot, but it's more than you'd think. I think that Seth Rogen wants this to be his own project and not tie that in with Jason Segel, and Walter is by extension a Jason Segel character, a Jason Segel Muppet, as opposed to a Muppet. That is a byproduct of a movie that was helmed and created and executive produced by Jason Segel. And Rogen, I can imagine, wants to have his own version of that's separate from that. And maybe Walter will reappear, given the fan reception of that. I think he can run a blog or something. It would be like a Muppet tourists or whatever, or visiting. They could have him as like a stand-in for real-life Muppet fans, like the Muppet Wiki people or Tough Pigs or something like that.
I don't miss him. I didn't watch this going, where's Walter?
I didn't feel like it was missing Walter, no. It would have been nice to see him.
No, I don't need more Walter in my life. I don't need Walter, I'm sorry. I mean, he seems like a good kid, but, I don't need any more Walter in my life.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can really do with him, and that's not to say that his performer is doing a bad job. Peter Linz was amazing as him. But after the Muppets, 2011, he's in Muppets Most Wanted, and there's not a great deal for him to do there. and he's not in the Muppets ABC series at all. He's not in Muppets Mayhem. Has a brief cameo in Muppet Haunted Mansion, and there's Muppets Now, which nobody remembers or wants to remember. And that's kind of it. There's not a whole lot you can really do with Walter.
I'm sure he'll appear in a Backstage skit at some point, but just to please all the Walter fans out there.
They'll have an episode Walter comes back and visits the show or something, and he's locked out of the theater or whatever. He's trying to get in. Yeah. So it's not a whole lot, but not much that we're missing, so to speak, but maybe someday. The Muppets are unfocused backstage. And what I mean by that is that I would have liked to have seen or heard more Muppets talk backstage. We kind of hear a little bit of that, bits and pieces, but not a ton of it. I didn't get to see New Zealand throwing his fish or Marvin Suggs smashing Muppet phones or the Swedish chef with any fruits or anything like that, and Chef appears very briefly. But the Muppets aren't doing their thing backstage as they otherwise should be or would be. And there's a scene early on when Kermit's talking to Scooter, and he says, the next person that talks to me is getting cut. Throughout the whole scene, a lot of the Muppets are just sort of looking around. They're just sort of wandering as though they're lost. And I thought that was interesting. They should be doing what they do, which is make noise, which is wreak havoc. And I reminded of a scene from, I think it was a Lynn Redgrave episode, might have been, where they have a guy walking on stilts backstage, and there's an archer backstage, and there's explosions going off backstage. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that, and we get bits and pieces of the behind the scenes of the background characters, but there's not a whole lot of antics back there. There's not a whole lot of interactions, and I wish we could have gotten more of that.
There's probably maybe the decision of, we don't want to try and cram too much wackiness into this. Try and keep it a bit more focused and not have it just full of explosions and that kind of thing. But they also think they still wanted to try and include as many Muppets as possible just to appeal and appease Muppet fans, longtime fans. So put Easter eggs in the background, whether it be the cat or, various Muppets. So I think maybe they know going into this, look, there's a pretty good chance the show's going to be picked up. Let's include the Muppets in there, have them appear so everyone knows, hey, look, we're bringing back the ones from the 70s that you haven't seen since the 70s, a lot of these Muppets. They will get their time to shine, but we've only got 30 minutes here.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really the sentiment behind it. I just would have preferred to have seen Blue throw a fish.
Yeah, it would
something
nice.
Like that.
Yeah.
That would have been that would have been a little extra, cherry on top. But
that's the reason to tune into the next episode, though.
That's right. It doesn't take me away from that. None of the critiques that I've had takes me out of the show. Like Janice teleporting from the orchestra pit to the stage is not going to destroy my life, and is no reason to not pick up the show. All of these things are very minor. I still love it. I'm going to watch it again and again, and this is an instant classic for me. Solid 5 out of 5 stars all around.
Yeah, I watched it with my kids this morning, and it brought me so much joy to see the kids sitting there and singing along and laughing along to this show. And it just reminded me of being a kid myself. And we got into the car, and the first thing the kids said, they said, can we put Muppet songs on? I was like, it's worked. It's worked. They've watched it once, and they want to listen to the Muppets now,
That's right. That's great.
Do you have any trivia questions for me?
What is the name of the Muppet that performs the trombone in the orchestra pit?
I couldn't find this. I tried to find it. I don't know. You're the expert. Tell me, what is it?
It's Dolores, and she was performed very briefly by Rashida Jones during a finale sequence in the 2011 movie in which she dubbed her Dolores. This is Dolores. And since then, they've updated her and recognized her in the Muppet 70th anniversary as Dolores. They've had a whole page on the Muppet Wiki, Dolores, the trumpet girl or trombone player. Her name is Dolores.
Is she the Muppet next to Lips?
That's the Muppet next to Lips, yes. The purple Muppet with the silver hair on the trombone.
I do love that there's all these Muppets in the originals that appeared in so many episodes that they never really got names. I'm glad that they're finally getting a bit more fleshed out now.
Yes, that's right. What items were presented to Statler and Waldorf to throw at the stage?
Were they tomatoes?
They were tomatoes, yes.
Yes. I've got a question for you. How many dancing Spartans was Miss Piggy supposed to have in her act?
I didn't even catch that. I don't know.
It's 300 because she was talking about how they have to have a crescendo when she hits her high B flat or something, because that's why she's wearing the gladiator shoes.
Okay.
Because she was supposed to be doing a song bit that got axed. That was her segment that got axed because she had two.
Yes.
Another question for you is, what was the color of the dancing horse in Man-Child?
He's an orangish, bright orange.
Orange, yeah.
Orange yellow.
Orange. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I'll ask you one last one. What is the name of that horse? I said it earlier. You know his name?
Oh, I do not. No.
It's Paul Revere.
Paul Revere. Okay. I did see.
Yes.
How do you? I mean, obviously, I do know how you know all this. You're the expert on Muppets, But it's just that I appreciate that I'm able to learn these things now.
I actually didn't know his name until a few weeks ago, but he was written by the legendary Bob Hope in his episode of The Muppet Show. And he's named, a little bit of American trivia, after a Revolutionary War icon, Paul Revere, who warned the Americans that the British were coming during the war. Rode a horse. That's what he's known for. So they named the horse Paul Revere.
There we go.
So yeah, a little bit of trivia for you.
All right, well, let's do our run-through, shall we? Just skip from the beginning to the end in case we missed anything here. So obviously it begins with the shots of the Muppet Theatre as the slow piano version's playing underneath, and I'm just glad they didn't do Rainbow Connection and whatnot. But we had Rainbow Connection playing softly under here, which I think was just enough for when you're first watching it, you're going, oh, the Muppets are back. And then Rolf straight away is to say, yeah, enough sooking, enough getting all sort of emotional about it. This is the Muppets, we're back. We're not going to get sentimental about it here. But so the Rainbow Connection's playing underneath. We see Beauregard wiping one of the stars on one of the doors. Maybe it was Sabrina's door, I'm not too sure. And Kermit literally lighting the lights of the theatre here. And then we see him walking past the photos of previous guest stars from the original run. And that's when the Rainbow Connection tune properly kicks in. I think that's when the tears started to sort of well in my eyes. I was like, oh my God, it's actually Muppets. They're actually back. And then he walks past Pops, who was asleep. And Pops is another character I don't think we see all that often in modern day Muppets, is he?
No, not a whole lot.
I remember him most from The Great Muppet Caper, Happiness Hotel. That's what he's known mostly for.
He returned in Muppets Most Wanted, the Pop's puppet, and they had a promotional video with him judging or sort of declaring a battle between the Swedish Chef and Gordon Ramsay. That's a YouTube exclusive. So there's not a whole lot of Pops that we've gotten in recent years, but he's back, and I can only hope if it goes to series, we get to see Pops mix it up with some of the guest stars coming in.
Yeah, so Kermit puts down his iconic Kermit coffee mug and realizes that Rolf was playing on the piano. It's not a sentimental montage in his head. He says, they're doing the show again, Frog. And then we get Moving Right Along. It's another song that classic Muppet fans would have a lot of nostalgia for. That's one of my favorite Muppet songs of all time, Moving Right Along. I adore it. And then we get Scooter doing the classic, hey, Sabrina Carpenter, 30 seconds to airtime, Sabrina Carpenter. And Miss Piggy's also in there. And Miss Piggy tells her that she has to change as well. And they discuss that wigs. So Sabrina says, this is my real hair. So the whole sort of the story there between Sabrina and Miss Piggy is Sabrina's stealing her look. And Miss Piggy is the aging star. And Sabrina is the up-and-coming star, essentially. What did you think of the pose where they turned to the camera and sort of looked at the camera? I mean, they did a lot of fourth wall breaking in the original Muppet Show, too.
Oh, it's very cute. It's a very funny moment. And that rivalry storyline, which was Sabrina, it seems, I wouldn't say oblivious, but it's a one-sided rivalry to it. Miss Piggy's jealous. Sabrina is in awe of Miss Piggy. And it culminates in a number later on, which we'll talk about. But that was a lot of fun. It was very funny. Piggy is a very prominent player in this, probably second to Kermit in this special. Piggy gets a lot of screen time and a lot of interaction, and that was very fun to see.
And then Kermit does the classic intro. There was Sam Pottle who wrote the theme with Henson.
Yes, Sam Pottle and Jim Henson.
Yeah. So we get it. It's pretty much exactly as it originally was, just a sort of a remade version, a modern version of it. And shot for shot, we've already touched on all of that, all the Muppets that they include and whatnot. Then Kermit introduces the first act as Waldorf and Statler get their first moment. Do you think there was maybe one or two too many Waldorf and Statler moments in this? I feel like they cut to them a lot more than they used to.
No,
I enjoy them.
I feel like there wasn't enough, actually.
Really? Okay.
I like the amount that we got. Yeah. Actually, was there something at the end of the special? Because usually they have a joke at the end.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Well, okay, I got to rewatch that. I was so busy looking at the names in the credits, I didn't catch it.
I'm just trying to see. See you next time. Same closing credits. I didn't put. There was something at the end because also it ends with Zoot going and he looks at his saxophone. Is it saxophone?
Right,
Zoot plays saxophone, right? Yeah.
It's a sax, yeah.
So this is where we get Man-Child. We've already touched on Man-Child. What your thoughts on it? And I mean, I just thought it was a really good song to kick off with. It got a good blend of songs in this. So we had an original, Sabrina Carpenter, and then we had Sabrina Carpenter singing a classic song as well. We did the Muppets themselves just doing a more modern song, and then we did the Don't Stop Me Now at the end. But I think it's really important to kick off with one of the biggest stars in the world doing singing one of their biggest songs in the world. And I think the way Sabrina throughout is idolizing Miss Piggy and talking about how I grew up watching the Muppets and my mum did, and I love the Muppets so much. I think kids watching it are going to go, oh, well, if Sabrina likes the Muppets, then I'm going to like the Muppets.
Yeah, that's sort of the vibe with it. And that's what fueled the original show was people seeing Hollywood A-listers appear with them, like Sylvester Stallone, of all people, Rocky being on the Muppet Show. And now you got Dad watching the show, or you'll see Ethel Merman, and now you got Grandma watching the show, or you'll see Steve Martin, and now you got your brother and your dad checking out the show. All these amazing professionals and Hollywood A-listers and star singers coming on the show, that renews interest. That keeps people engaged. That lets people sort of imagine who they can get next. And it really is anybody and everybody that they want, they can almost certainly get to do a Muppet project. And that opens up the floodgates for a great deal of potential here.
I was going to say, the potential for this show is just, there's no ceiling, I don't think, really. Like, they've done such a good job with this that I think, I mean, maybe after, 4 or 5 seasons, people might start to get a bit sort of tired of it. But I think if you just keep it to a limited run of maybe 10 episodes per season, every year, 10 episodes, that's all you need, I think. And I think that'll satisfy Muppet fans and, it keeps people engaged. And like I said, I think anyone's going to want to be a part of this show. But
I certainly do.
After Man-Child is where we go backstage, and Kermit is asking Scooter why there's so many acts hanging out back here. And these were the bits that we saw in the commercial. And he says that, you said to them the act sounded fun, and he says, well, it's the polite way of saying no. What were your thoughts on overall? I know we sort of kind of touched on it, but Matt's performance of Kermit in this, he came across as sympathetic, as someone who wants to please everybody, but also still needs to take charge as well, and knows he's the leader.
I thought that they struck a very fine balance, and there was a moment towards the end of it, just before the final number, where Kermit shouts at them and waves his arms at them and says, "Everybody stop." That's something that we would have gotten out of the original show. That's something we would have gotten out of Jim's Kermit, out of Steve's Kermit. Now we're seeing it out of Matt's Kermit. I'm glad that they did that. Kermit being very snarky and sneaky around Miss Piggy was a very fun characterization of it, was something that we would have gotten. And they really play up that angle in the interviews, if you've seen them promoting the show. Kermit's giving these backhanded remarks. He's taking jabs at her. And I like that. I like that sort of not sort of lovey-dovey angle, but not also like outright hating one another like they've done in recent years. But there's sort of this balance between that and sentimental Kermit and sort of snarky Kermit that just wants the show to go fine and has to deal with all these crazy people. And Matt played that very well.
I couldn't work out watching this. I hadn't even really thought about it till now, but I'm trying to think. So in 2026 Muppet Show canon, are Miss Piggy and Kermit an item or not?
You'd have to ask them. I honestly don't know. Piggy will probably say yes. Kermit will say no.
There was no hints of it, was there? Really, that there's an emotional love connection between the two.
Not a whole lot. No, I wouldn't say a whole lot. She calls him Kermie when she comes out, but no, not a great deal.
Because they got married in Muppets Most Wanted again, and
technically, but. I guess they got separated in the Muppets or something, and they broke up officially from dating in the ABC series. So,
okay, I watched
it's kind of in the air.
Yeah, that one's not canon to me. But so we have here. This is the part from the commercial where he says the next person that speaks to me is going to get cut. Of course, Miss Piggy comes out and says Kermit, and he struggles to tell Miss Piggy that she's going to have to be cut, or cut one of her songs because she's got 2 songs and they haven't got enough time for it all. And this is where Fozzie enters, and he says he can help trim the show with a little bit off the top. Giant scissors. This is a prop comedy. And another thing we didn't get, as you said, with the Fozzie bit is I'm looking forward to getting the first Waldorf and Statler versus Fozzie bit. And I hope they keep the same backdrop as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He puts on his thinking cap, which is just a balloon hat. And this is where he tells Seth Rogen, the executive producer, that he's off the show. Kermit then introduces my favorite bit. It's the great Gonzo, who has, I like this, shocking audiences and insurance companies for years. And it just feels so much like Gonzo to be on these self-controlling roller skates, going through blades and rings of fire and reciting the winners of the best supporting actress. I thought that was just fantastic. Obviously doesn't go to plan, goes backwards, he crashes, and that begins his arc for the episode. And Waldorf and Statler have their bit here. That was painful for us, or for him or us, both. Then we get Pigs in Wigs. Now, was this a parody of something in particular? I've seen Bridgerton, maybe?
Bridgerton.
Yes, I've never seen Bridgerton, so it was a little lost on me.
Me neither.
I think this was probably, when my kids were watching, I think this was probably the part they felt the least focused. I don't think they really sort of got what was going on here.
It was very talk-heavy. Yeah,
it went a little bit too long as well. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting a song or something to come out of that, or something grander, but I guess the storyline behind that is Miss Piggy's date at this ball, this very Victorian era ball here, falls in love with Miss Poogie, who's one of the Muppets from the 2011 movie, and she's a disgusting version of Miss Piggy. He falls in love with her, and Miss Piggy's stuck with Pepe the Prawn, who is filling in for, I think they mentioned he's filling in for another actor that couldn't make it. Scooter chimes in on that.
I really liked there was a line where she says, oh, I love your big, strong arms, what? And he goes, are you talking to me?
Yeah, and your crimson red hair. That was funny. And, it's good that we get to see some Pepe in this, some newer Muppets. I know Pepe's like damn near 30 years old now, but he's one of the non-original Muppet Show characters in this that really works and meshes well with the new characters. And Bill Barretta's excellent as him. I got to work with him on Happy Time, and he's very fun as Pepe. He does a great job throughout this. He was Beautiful Day Monster. He was Rolf and Dr. Teeth and the Swedish Chef in this. And one of the little Muppets that's got a toothpick and says, I've been burned before. And it's him. So he's a very fun performer.
So who was that character again? Which one's he?
I don't remember his name, but he's a red monster character, or she. I don't know what it was, but I think it started off as a female character long ago. And it's just sort of popped up as an obscure Muppet. Couldn't tell you what it's been in, but it's in this, and it's a lot of fun.
See, I was never a huge fan of Pepe as a kid. I can't quite pinpoint why it was, whether it was just his attitude or whatnot, but I do have memories. There's a game I adored as a child called Muppet Monster Adventure on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Have you ever played Muppet Monster Adventure? Well, Pepe is the tutorial voice. And every time you hit like a checkpoint, you just hear him go, hello. To the point where you're like, shut up, Pepe, I'm just trying to play the game. And he's like, go, 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 go. Every time you try running, and you're like, I think hearing his voice so annoyingly in that game made me dislike the character in itself. But I've grown to like him as well. And I thought he was very, 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 very funny in this. This is where the projectiles get delivered to Waldorf and Statler. And they say there's a lot more left, unfortunately, but they're going to throw those eventually at the stage. Then backstage, we get the chickens getting their feathers stuck back on by which Muppet?
Hilda. This is Hilda from the season 1 of the Muppet Show, who has not spoken or said a word in years. Most recently, the puppet, which is still intact, the original puppet, was displayed at the Museum of Moving Image last year in New York. Alongside Zelda Rose and the Muppet Babies. So this is Hilda's first return in decades. She's performed now by Stephanie D'Abruzzo, and she gets a very fun moment here. I was not a big fan of Hilda growing up, and for years, the Muppet Show season 1 was all that I had to watch the Muppet Show.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I've always called that particular season Nursing Home Muppets because all the Muppets there look scary. They look elderly. The lighting is bad. Everything feels slow and dark.
Fozzie's eyes are wild.
Yes, and he's burnt. Miss Piggy looks scary. Gonzo looks like he's been ran through a pencil sharpener. Everything just looks... Everything scared me as a kid when I first saw it. I was like, that's Gonzo? That's Piggy? And Hilda is one of those Muppets, nursing home Muppets, that's just this old lady, a part of the cast. She, in my opinion, wasn't the funniest. Didn't have a whole lot to do on stage or backstage, and just kind of existed. But she's got something to do here. It's a quick little aside, and I assume that they'll keep her around for moments like that. It's a fun mix up to seeing her with some of the older characters and doing her thing, and it works well with this new cast, with how large the cast is. Hilda certainly has a role with today's Muppets.
Maybe she'll become like the set designer or the costume designer or the makeup lady or something like
costumer.
that. But it's interesting. You said you only had season 1. I was touching on earlier how I only had the reruns that my nan would record, and she had like 3 or 4 tapes that I would just watch religiously of these reruns, ads included. You know what? Just the whole deal. But I think the reruns were mostly like season 3 to 5. I don't think they had many of the original ones. I think they aired reruns of the pilot or the season 1 very often because they looked so different. So I remember as I got older and I bought them on DVD and I bought the season 1, I was like, I haven't seen any of these ones. I hadn't seen them. I put it on and I went, this does not feel like the Muppet Show. Well, not the Muppet Show that I remembered. Yeah, they Miss Piggy in particular just looks she looks bizarre.
Oh God, yeah. I had that DVD set for maybe 5 or 6 years before I got seasons 2 and 3. And that was all I had seen of the Muppet Show, were these very old-looking Muppets with very old-looking guest stars. Yeah, for years, that was all I had.
So you didn't see the movies at all?
Oh, no. I had the movies. I had all the movies. But of the Muppet Show itself, for about 5 or 6 years, all I had was season 1 Nursing Home Muppets with Pencil Sharpener Gonzo and Burnt Fozzie and Scary Piggy.
So you thought that was the whole show? They all look like that, yeah.
Well, I knew that they changed, and I knew what they looked like because I had seen the websites. I just hadn't seen those episodes, but I knew that they were going to change them. But for years, that was all I had seen of the actual Muppet Show. And when I did eventually see the other seasons, it was like, oh my God, this is like night and day. How much better they look, how much brighter they look, how much fancier. It's so much different.
Well, that's one thing that stood out to me watching this, especially last night when it was all dark, how colourful the screen was. It was just, because there was obviously so many Muppets on screen, but it was just so bright and vibrant and energetic and fun. And I was like, I said to my wife when I went to bed, after the bed, she goes, what was it like? And I was like, it's what the world is missing now. It was just fun. No, I walked to bed with a smile on my face,
Yeah, I was going to go to sleep afterwards, but I stayed up an additional 2 or 3 hours still talking about it, still reading it, still going back and rewatching some of my favorite moments and looking at what the online discourse was. And it's as close to perfect as perfect gets.
I think so. For a backdoor pilot, yeah.
Yes, easily one of the best things that they've done in years. And that's coming from somebody that's seen everything that they've done in years. This is one of the best that they've done, certainly in the 2020s, springboarding itself well ahead of where they've been. And it's a perfect direction for where they need to go.
And this next bit here, this is kind of what you said you were hoping more of in the backstage bit. So this is where Scooter says, I've got a list here, and as long as it stays in a specific order, nothing happens to it, then we'll be fine tonight. Of course, Gonzo flies past, still reciting names. He hasn't given up. He's still doing his bit, and he takes the thing. I think it's Bobo the Bear?
Bobo the Bear, yes.
It is Bobo the Bear. Okay, so it's both Simpsons and Muppets. Bobo the Bear. He says, you kind of brought that on yourself, and Scooter turns to the camera. Classic Muppets bit right there. This is where we get the Blinding Lights song by Rizzo. Now, you were saying earlier that you didn't really get the story for the man-child bit. I didn't quite get the story for this one. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, it was just them singing the song. Yeah.
What I would have liked is, with all the backstage stuff, Beauregard's coffee, smashing the fuse box and everything.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to result in the lights being super bright or super dark. And that didn't happen.
Blinding lights.
Yes. There's a little bit at the end where the lights get a little brighter, but it's not blinding. It's not crazy bright. In fact, it looks not all that different from where it was just a moment ago. I thought it was going to be like blown out, crazy white kind of thing, blinding them, and their eyes are going to be like itty bitty, like in Happiness Hotel.
Oh, yeah. That would be a good callback.
That would have been fun. I don't know. I was hoping for something like that, or flickering lights, or the lights go out or something, or the lights start falling on them or sparking.
It's almost like they just went back to normal again. They went off and then came on again, and that was it.
Yeah, it was just the song. I thought it was going to like speed up or something was going to happen, but no, it's just the song. And it wasn't a whole lot that I noticed different about it.
I did like that the neon lights were sort of brands for Muppets. I saw New Zealand was on one of the lights. Did you see that? Yeah, in the background of that one?
I didn't see that. No, I got to watch that.
It must be like a fish store or something. It was like throwing a fish on the sign. Yeah. We're back to backstage, and Scooter is telling Miss Piggy that she's been cut, but she wasn't aware of this. And she rants about her gladiator shoes and whatnot. And then we cut to Kermit in Sabrina's dressing room, apologizing to her for all the kinks. Here's another thing. Your thoughts on Sabrina Carpenter dirty jokes on the Muppets?
Hey, they've done it before. The original pilot was called Muppet Show, Sex and Violence. They've talked about things in interviews. They've alluded to it. I thought it was harmless. It would go over the kids' heads. Of
course it does. Yeah.
Nobody's going to think twice about it. So I'm not bothered by it. Nobody should be bothered by it. If a million moms decides to write a letter, scathing letter saying you can't have this show, I say screw them. It's a fine joke. Nobody should be offended by it.
How dare you say the word kink?
You succubus.
That's her whole bit, though, isn't it? Just her double entendres. That's part of her gimmick, right?
Yeah,
so it's the guest star. Yeah. She says that she's given up a few things to appear tonight. I think she's going to appear on a new coin or something, and a second date with somebody. He's single? No. Again, fitting her character.
That's a funny joke.
Yeah. Then Miss Piggy busts in and crushes Kermit with the door. This is one of my favorite lines in the whole thing. It's just a passing joke. Scooter acknowledging the door wasn't even locked. But she still knocked the door down anyway. And Sabrina says that she's based her whole look on Miss Piggy. She says, yeah, I know my lawyers are well aware. We're going to be getting in touch with your lawyers. And she said she grew up watching her. And then basically, I think it's a case of, I grew up watching you. My mum did. My grandmother did. She's like, that's enough now. And Miss Piggy then says, tell Kermit that she will be singing on this show, whether he likes it or not. And then she helps Kermit back up, Sabrina. And she says, you know the drill, Scooter, get a new door. It's obviously what Miss Piggy does a lot. She knocks the guest door down. Then we get Maya talking about meeting Kermit and how he's a lovely person and whatnot. And the beautiful Dame Monster gives her a kiss on the hand, and they both look at each other lovingly. That's pretty much the bit, right?
Mm-hmm. That was very fun.
Then it's Muppet Labs, where the future is being made today. Was this the original design of the Muppet Labs? Because I feel like the season 5 version was much different. I feel like it had more crazy crap going on.
The original one was just machines and stuff like that in season 1 and 2. This one, and towards the later seasons, I think season 3 onwards, it was like in an office space that had the big window that oversaw a town. And they brought that back. It might even be the original, I don't know, or a repaint. But they have that back, and they have the machines and the big desk and everything. Bunsen looks fabulous. Beaker's looking great this time around. There was an issue with Dr. Bunsen Honeydew a few years ago. He is one of the Muppets that is exposed to foam, and they flock him like a jewelry box, velvety kind of flocking. They do that with him and with Miss Piggy. But for Bunsen, for many years, his mouth started to rip and tear towards the sides. That made his mouth look really big. This is a new Bunsen puppet, or newer Bunsen puppet, and he looks crisp, he looks fresh, he looks just like the old Muppet Show, and they all look really good this time around, and that's courtesy of the Jim Henson Company, a Creature Shop, which is now handling the rebuilds and the new builds and the maintenance and stuff like that. They are working with the Muppets this time around, so they look great, they look wonderful.
I'm looking at the various versions of the Muppet Labs from the original show. And I think the one I remember the most is the one I'm thinking of, is where there's almost like a blue-red hue backdrop with just two giant sort of computer,
big
machines, 70s style computer machines in the background. That's the one I remember the most, but there definitely is the version that we got in this special. That was the version that existed in the original show as well. Shot for shot, the clock up the top, window in the background. Yeah, that's pretty much what this was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it all works wonderfully. I love that they had the original little song cue, Sting for the intro. Same with Gonzo. That really brought me back. Yeah.
But obviously, here's where Beaker's. He has the. I like this. It feels very modern without trying to scream modern. So the epidemic is distraction, which is a real thing in 2026. Kids being distracted by things, phones, TVs, and the day-to-day terrors when you're not looking at the first two, as Bunsen says. And he says he's got a serum to help you focus, which is something that I'm sure many parents out there wish they could give to their kids. And he puts too much in Beaker's eyes, and his eyes start falling out, and then multiplying, I guess, just keeps pumping out eyes, and they're going all over the audience and yada, yada, yada. One goes in Maya's mouth and they think has killed her, but we find out Hasn't just yet. Yeah, we go backstage. This is where we get Janice. She gets her moment here to shine, and she's trying to help Kermit relax. She can sense he's got a negative aura. He breathes in. She walks off. He breathes out, and he says, "It's good. You know what? I am feeling better. I feel like everything's going good now." Muppet News Flash. I do hope we get a Muppet News Flash in the studio next time, because I do love that set of the Muppet News Flash, but it was just nice to get a Muppet News Flash here of Maya dead, but turns out the sandbag falls on her stomach, she spits out the eyeball, and she has survived. And of course, Gonzo interrupts that again. So Gonzo just keeps interrupting throughout the show. We have Waldorf and Statler saying, "You know what, this show's not half bad." Yeah, you're right. It's all bad. Now it's time for a song which is a Muppet spin on a classic, which they always tend to do, and it's Island in the Stream, which I love. I love that song. I think it's fantastic, and I thought they did a really good version of it here.
Yes, this one felt the most like the original Muppet Show, which, yes, they did used to do a lot of numbers in like a bayou or a swamp or something with alligators and fish and stuff, and they had the gator, yeah. They had the Elton John alligator there. That was very fun. They had these plant Muppets and flowers and a big snake Muppet, which was fun to see. They had them all back, and it looked great. It was a very well shot number. I think it could easily be a YouTube music video that gets millions of views or something like that if it was posted. Worked very well. Was very funny. Miss Piggy comes in. She's sort of paddling in a raft, following them in a life preserver, and trying to catch up. And deters the entire number. Flips Kermit out of the boat, and she and Sabrina Carpenter reconcile whatever differences they had. And Miss Piggy agrees not to sue her, or rather, her lawyers would be determining whether or not it's copyright infringement. So, it's a fun moment. That was a nice little wrap up to that.
I did like the spin on From One Diva to Another at the end of that song. And you were touching on it earlier as well, seeing the bits of once the segments are finished and whatnot, just them setting up the next one. So when they're talking about reconciling and whatnot, Sweetums comes past, he starts collecting the setup, and because the curtains have closed. So the audience isn't seeing this, but we're seeing it. I thought it was just, I don't think we ever got to see that, of them packing up the sets after they've just finished a bit.
Rarely. We'll see the characters walk off stage usually, and that's usually the extent of it.
Yeah, and it's usually Kermit saying, "Well done, good show." Well, yeah,
right,
in the backstage area. Yeah. Now backstage once again, and they've only got time for one more act, and everyone's trying to plead their case. And this is where, as you say, Kermit, he screams like, "Be quiet!" And they say, "What are we going to do?" And he turns to me, the light bulb goes off. He says, "Do you trust me?" And then it cuts to everyone out in the audience, just murmuring to each other, like, "What's going on?" Nothing's happening. And then we get that new Muppet, or the Muppet. He's not new. I'd never seen this Muppet before. The one that says, "I've been burned before." I've never seen that Muppet before. Forgive me. They don't trust Kermit, but he goes out and he says he's not going to announce one of the acts that's backstage is going to perform. Instead, he's going to, or before that though, he says, things haven't gone exactly to plan tonight. Gonzo flies past again. He says, we're a little rusty, but we promise to do a good show for you tonight, and I hope you enjoyed at least some of it, which I think is just, as I said, encapsulates the Muppets. There's at least one thing here that you enjoyed, that you take with you and stays with you. And he starts singing "Don't Stop Me." It's just "Don't Stop," right?
Don't Stop Me Now.
Yeah, "Don't Stop Me Now" is that what it is in full? Yeah, by Queen, an iconic song that really had a real resurgence once Bohemian Rhapsody came out. I don't think it was really I wouldn't say as well known, but it wasn't listened to or played as much as it is now since after Bohemian Rhapsody. And I think it was the perfect song for them to sing, because they're basically saying, and Sabrina wasn't included. So Kermit starts singing by himself, and then the Muppets who are off stage see him singing. They go, "Well, we can't leave Kermit out there by himself." They all join in together. And I think that just sort of perfectly encapsulates the camaraderie of the Muppets. They're this group of misfits, outcasts who all bind together to make this great thing that is the Muppet Show. And it's also just got the message of, don't stop us now. We've got all this momentum. Keep this momentum going.
I agree. And it's actually rare that the Muppets close out a show without the guest star, but it was very humble of Sabrina not to appear during that. It was a very sweet moment to give them the spotlight and recognize that she is doing her job in boosting the Muppets and making them popular and relevant again, while also not stealing the spotlight and allowing them to really do their thing. And we got that. We got a very fun mix of old and new characters. Gonzo zips by. We see Muppets waiting in the wings and joining on stage and joining in and having a great time. Again, little inconsistent with Muppets teleporting onto the stage there. That always bothers me a little bit, and always did at the end of the Muppet Show when a character would be on stage and then would jump into the orchestra pit. But this is a great way to close out the show.
I'm just envisioning little 8-year-old Jayden going, how the hell is he doing that?
How did the animal get up there
Mum,
and in there?
Mum, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this, Mum?
No, I did used to wonder about that. It always bothered me, and it still does. There's nothing you can do about it. It's one of those things you just have to forget about it. But how did they change it out of their suits and get on stage with the pit and everything ready? It's okay. But no,
Yes.
Fun moment. Anyways, it's a very fun moment, very sweet moment with the Muppets, and that's exactly the kind of energy that we need with them right now, is seeing them all together doing their thing and having fun, and not having to, woe is me, oh, we're doomed, oh, all that sappiness. Is just, all right, here's the Muppets, here's the chaos, we're having some fun.
Do people like us anymore?
Right.
No, don't bring that up.
Yes, we like you. Now sing the damn song. But
Yes, exactly. And you're right. So I like the way, though, at the end, they bring Sabrina out like the old way. She makes a little gag there. I think he says, you fit right in. She goes, oh, it helps out on the same height. Boom, zing, we're out. And then cue the credits. The original credits sequence is recreated for this, and same music. And it just, it felt like season 6 of the original Muppet Show. I thought it was just incredible. I want to rate our shows out of banjos here. That's what we're going to do. So you've said 5. I'm going to say this is, considering this was a backdoor pilot, this is about as close to a 5 banjos out of 5 as you're going to get, I think. I thought they couldn't have done a better job.
Yes, and there have been Muppet pilots before. The Muppet Show Sex and Violence, the Muppet Valentine Show before that, and in 2015 there was a pilot that was put on YouTube for the show, or 2015
Was there
for the
really?
ABC show. Yeah, it's still out there. It's basically a shorter version of the first episode, almost shot for shot. But this one I felt has the clearest direction of exactly what I want, of exactly what we need. And what's interesting about the other Muppet Show pilots, they don't look anything like the shows that they became. Not really. This one does. This looks like something that I want. This looks like something I've wanted. It's everything that I could have wanted. And it's funny because a few nights before, I had a dream where I was watching it, and it was really bad. And it was a very talk heavy. And all the Muppets were wandering around. They were just doing this backstage, wandering around. And I'm like, do something. But the Muppets are doing stuff. They're interacting. They're telling jokes. They're singing songs. Doing everything I could have wanted them to do. And has really put aside any concerns that I had initially had about this pilot. So I'm feeling great about it. It looks amazing. Everything is wonderful. They had damn near 40 puppeteers, I think. Maybe 40 puppeteers of this is the most amount of puppeteers that they've had for a single show.
Let's make it 41, hey?
Something like that. Yeah. They I hope so. They have a lot going for them, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store. I'm confident that it'll be picked up. We'll have a full show, full swing.
Yeah, they have to be. I can't see how you can put this out and it not be picked up. Look at the response it's getting. I have not seen one single negative review.
100% is rare these days for a television show. It is so rare. Star Wars fans could never get to something that high, but this has staying power. It has relevance. It has momentum. It's got energy. It's got interest. And my hope is that it has merchandise because, hey, I like to collect.
Hey, our pals at NECA, I saw you got a Muppets license. Want to send some goodies our way?
Yes. They're working on that.
You got the Diamond Select toys? You got those ones?
I got them up there. I was actually just fixing them up. They're a little sloppy, I will say. There's some sloppiness to it.
I've got the Waldorf and Statler little. You got those ones?
Those are good.
In the booth. I like those ones. Yeah, and I had it stuck to my wall, and then I had rearranged the wall, so I can put it back up there. But just every time someone would walk into the studio, they'd go, "Hey, it's the guys from the Muppets on the wall." That's pretty cool. Do you have? I think maybe Diamond Selected. I'm not too sure, but they created like the backstage area. And I could never find photos of the actual figure. I could only find glam photos of it.
No, because they didn't.
They didn't release it.
They didn't do that. No, what they did, which was, I consider false advertisement, they had a box shaped like the Muppets backstage.
Oh, no
That
way.
was not an actual play set. That was all cardboard. They did the same thing with the Muppets Electric Mayhem set. I thought, okay, we got the band. It's going to look like
That doesn't have the backdrop?
Nope. It's just the figures and their accessories. There are no sets with Diamond Select.
Oh, I would have been furious if I dropped. It was like 150 Australian dollars.
They were expensive, and you can buy all of those figures individually for less. But
yeah. So you're paying for a cardboard? Oh, man, I would have been so angry.
I didn't buy it. I bought the Mayhem set, but it wasn't worth it. It was just boxes. It's cardboard.
No wonder I couldn't find it. 'Cause I'm thinking, if they're doing this, then they're going to do maybe a Muppet Theatre replica. Obviously, I think
I thought the same.
I'm talking up NECA, right? Because I'm a big NECA fan, and they do great jobs with the team and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles license. They've got they build the street designs and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think these guys are going to build a Muppet Theatre. I really do.
I hope so.
And I think it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait for them to send me one.
Oh my God, me too. That's the hope in all of it, is that we get more Muppets.
That's the dream, right? As a kid growing up, I always dreamed I could have a play set.
You just want a theater.
Yeah, I want a Muppet Theatre.
I have the Backstage one right next to me, but there's no stage. There's no performance space for them.
Oh, so is that the Palisades?
Palisades, yes.
So how big is that one?
They're in the figures are all in like the 8-inch scale. So it's about
yeah.
The set itself is about 15, 16 inches tall.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I want a detailed backstage. You need backstage, you need the theater. I could probably do without I could probably do without the audience. You don't really need the audience section, do you? That's just going to be sit, right?
Yeah, the orchestra pit though would be fun.
Orchestra pit and have Waldorf and Statler on the side. Yeah, come make it happen, NECA. Make it happen, please. Yeah. But we'd love to hear from you guys listening and watching as well. What Muppets merchandise would you love to be made? Talkingmuppets@gmail.com. We just want to hear from each and every one of you as well. If you listen to the show and you've enjoyed the show, your thoughts on not just this show, but on the special and just your love of the Muppets. We want to hear. We want this to be a community. I'm going to be starting a Talking Muppets Discord channel as well. So make sure I'll put the link for that in the description of these podcasts once that's up and running. And let's just create a really inclusive, fun, safe Muppet community.
Yes, and this has been a lot of fun. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing those answers and doing more of this. There's a great deal of things I could talk about with Muppets, and I'm glad we were able to talk about this one. It's easily one of my favorite things that they've done, and I simply cannot wait for more. I can't wait for more discussions. I can't wait for more merchandise, more engagement, more exposure, and hopefully more work. But hey, let time be the determining factor in that.
Let us know what you'd like us to review and discuss in future episodes as well. So talkingmuppets@gmail.com. But this has been the first official episode of Talking Muppets. I am Dando. You are
Jayden LeBron.
Yes, and we'll catch you all in the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.